I come to you with only karate, empty hands. I have no weapons, but should I be forced to defend myself, my principles or my honor should be a matter of life or death, of right or wrong, then here are my weapons. Karate, my empty hands.
I hope you enjoy this as we pay tribute to the founder of American Kenpo in designing this thing. So there are two quotes in here that I think are relevant to today, and I'm going to share that with you before we go. The first one comes out of the Zen of Kenpo, page 42, and it says, "Time and space may separate us, but not the thoughts and memories that bind us. Time and space may separate us, but not the thoughts and memories that bind us." And the second quote that I have in here, and this is truly a Parker quality, a very important quality. "I can" is not as convincing as "I did." I guess at this point we're getting toward the end of this meeting. It's more of a love fest here about some people that really were influenced. You know, there's three categories. Those are those that were fortunate enough to have a one-on-one relationship with Ed Parker Sr., those that trained with him, those that had personal relationships with him outside of Kenpo. There's those that had the opportunity to attend seminars or maybe meet him at the internationals, participate in something greater, which was the camaraderie of the martial arts. And then finally, the last people that I would talk about that we've heard from today are those that were inspired by Ed Parker. I'm sort of fortunate because I got to see all of that firsthand. The best part about it is that when I was starting Kenpo, started with Steve Aaron, and he was one of Mr. Parker's first black belts. And I went up and became a green belt. And at that point, my first tournament, you never forget your first date, your first win, your first car accident, and your first karate tournament. My first karate tournament was something very special. It was on November the 12th, 1978, 42 years ago. I was a baby. And it was held at the East Los Angeles College in Monterey Park. And it was produced by Danny Rodardi and Frank Trejo. I competed in it as a green belt. Look at this, folks. How's that for a piece of nostalgia, huh? Now, the reason this stood out to me, besides being in the tournament, was that I got my ass handed to me by a BKF guy. I'd never fought one of these guys before. So that was very quick, and Tall Bear was the official, for those that knew him. And I felt like my head was being slices, like I was in Dave Thompson's butcher shop and he was cutting back pieces of ham. So that went over very quickly, and then I left the ring, and I met Frank Trejo. And Mr. Trejo saw me, and he pulled me aside, and he says, "Look, I know your instructor. I know that patch." He was one of my instructors. And he asked me a question. He said, "Do you know why you lost?" And, you know, a young green belt, I'm going, "Yeah, the guy beat me." You know, he said, No. You understand what I'm asking you?" He said, "There's two battles in your life. There's the one in your head, and there's the one in the ring. And if you're not prepared here, you'll be killed in that ring." And the metaphor is life, about life. You need to be prepared in your life. I think Ed Parker did that for us. I think his writings, his books, his teaching, the teachers that we had, the people you've heard from today are inspirational for reasons, very good reasons, okay? Mr. Parker wrote a book, many books. And the Zen of Kenpo is one of them. That's one of my favorites. The first time I met Ed Parker was that day, November 12th, 1978. I was sitting against the judge's table in the back after this horrible defeat, sitting there by myself thinking, what am I doing here? And in walked this large man through the double doors with the brown tan coat, trench coat, and the salt and pepper hair. And I knew exactly who he was. I said, oh my God, that's Ed Parker. He was my inspiration. He was the Bruce Lee to me that people get excited about Bruce Lee. Ed Parker was, because I knew what he meant and what he had created. He turned and looked left, he looked right, he looked right at me, and he started walking toward me. And I thought, oh my God, why is he walking to me? And I'm looking left and I'm looking, and there's nobody there. And Mr. Parker, in true fashion of caring about everyone and people, walked up and said, hello, my name is Ed Parker. What is your name? And I told him, Paul Casey. And he said, I know your teacher. Are you going to compete today? And I said, oh, yes. Didn't have the courage to say I just got beat, but I didn't want to make that, don't ruin a first impression kind of thing. And he shook my hand. He said, well, I wish you the luck. That was the first time I met him. The last time I saw Ed Parker was in August of 1990. I went to the Vagabond in Long Beach. Frank was there. All of the seniors in the Kenpo were ready for the internationals. I saw Frank and he said, Mr. Parker, the old man, this was, he said that lovingly. Why don't you go say hello to him? He's in the back, and he gave me the room. So I walked over to that hotel room, and Ron Chappelle, Mr. Fisher, and several other seniors that would run the internationals for him were there. And he was sitting in a chair, and I could tell he was tired. And I hadn't seen him in some time because I'd been on the road, and he looked thin and worn out. But as soon as I walked in, the same enthusiasm that I saw in 1978 all of a sudden came about. He stood up, he goes, oh, Paul. But now I'm Paul. Before I was just a green belt. I was Paul. Everybody out. I want to talk to Paul. We sat there and we talked for about 10 minutes, and he asked me a few questions. He asked me how I was doing, where I was going, things like that. And then eventually he ended up saying, is there anything I can do for you? Is there anything I can do for you? I said, Mr. Parker, you've done more for me than you would ever know. That's when he said, quit calling me Mr. Parker. Call me Ed. It's Ed. And I said to him, Mr. Parker, you will always be Mr. Parker. And he smiled, and he wished me a lot of luck that day at the tournament. That was the last time I saw him. He asked me to come by the house, and we were going to get together and eat. I don't know why, but he offered that to me. So with his book, I want to leave this meeting of people that are here that are very important. This is a direct quote from Edmund Parker in the Zen of Kenpo. He says, the worth of a name is often measured by how far it extends beyond the grave. The worth of a name is often measured by how far it extends beyond the grave. As far as I'm concerned, Ed Parker lives and breathes through us every day. His spirit is here. We are blessed to have known him. But for Ed Parker and his vision to see something that was great, that could be shared with us together, we are part of his extended family. And I'm grateful to every one of you for sharing your stories here today. I send many blessings out to you. Every one of you I know and I care about, and you're always welcome to join us here to share your insight into the Ed Parker system. With that, thank you very much. God bless you. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Paul.
That was great, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Ladies and gentlemen, have a great evening.
Thank all of you.
Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.
Bless you all.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Casey.
Thank you.
Hello,
Be
Richard.
safe.
Thank you,
Mr.
Paul.
Casey.
Paul. Enjoyed hearing everybody's stories. Thank you very much for having us. Great discussion.